Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. Welcome to yet another session from the Skillify. I'm Dr. Apurva Chauhan, and today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic called space and distance in everyday communication. So, let us see how we are managing the space that we are located in and how we are actually calculating, strategizing the distance that we have with people, objects, things around us. Okay, I hope my PPT is visible to you all. Yeah, all right. So, space and distance in everyday communication, I'm sure you might be wondering that what are we talking about? So, before I begin with the topic and with the illustrated theme, I want to talk about something that I was wondering yesterday. So, I was talking about planets, and I was looking at the solar system. I should also probably tell you that I'm not a science person, but I was thinking about the solar system. I'm sure that you all know that all the planets, stars, and everything in the solar system, it has a designated position, a designated, decided location on which it revolves or keep its pace in everyday work, right? It does tell us something, that this orbit that the planets or all these bodies are following is maintaining a sort of a decorum of the universe, decorum of the solar system, and everything has a gravitational pull which is at a measured length. And also, you know what, I googled about earth and other stars, and there was this question in my mind. And I asked that what it would be like if earth changed its orbit. So if earth manages to say hi to Jupiter and just move on from the orbit that is designated and designed for it and move to another, what will happen? So the answer that Google gave me was that it would mean disaster for our planet if the equilibrium between the sun and earth is disturbed. Then our planet would crash into sun. The orbit, basically the path to at which different planets are positioned, they keeps the planet from being destroyed by the giant heat ball at the center of our solar system. Now, of course, you might be wondering, why am I discussing science, solar system, planets, and these bodies? This is very important, and this actually is the root of the term, the theme, the concept, the phenomenon of space and distance in everyday communication. The planets, the stars, the bodies in the solar system are also communicating at a length which has been measured, calculatedly measured, and designated for them through the orbits. Correct? Now let us see how we can ensure that we remain in our orbits and maintain the measured, calculated distances. All right? So let us move ahead and see what we have for us today, the agenda. So we are going to talk about space. What is space? The immeasurable amount of area around us is the space. We are also going to talk about orbits. And most importantly, for the sake of some humor, I want to talk about the iconic movie Titanic. Then we will be discussing about distance. What is distance? Distance is basically a relational concept. How? Then, do you plan your distances or should you be planning your distances? And then we'll be talking about aura. What is aura? Aura, vibes, energy, charge, etc. Now, before I move ahead, I must tell you that your aura is basically, the length of your arms around you. That's your aura. You have some energy that you generate, and that is basically communicated through this, arm length distance. And we'll talk more about it. We'll also be talking about social distancing thanks to COVID. But have you considered distant socializing? We'll come to that. Lastly, we'll be practicing Proximix. Proximix is the umbrella term for the space and distance communication. and I will be helping you with some tips to draw and recognize boundaries. All right. So, let's talk a bit about proxemics. So, what we are going to talk about, we are understanding spacing, including how crowd, makes us anxious, and how privacy, solitude gives us peace and calm. There is also a concept called body bubble. You have a body bubble around you, which, if is encroached by some other external foreign particle or body, you feel encroached. You feel that there is some impact which is weakening in yourself. Mostly, people unconsciously structure the space around them, and that is what we are talking about. Space is everything around you, but do you structure it? And this structuring varies from every culture. But today, in the contemporary world, it's no more about culture, even. It's individualistic, as in that it changes from person to person. Just go to a room full of people. You will find that every person will have a different space designation or different body bubble. It is up to you how you understand. By the end of this session, I will also be helping you how you can understand and recognize these boundaries. And then, of course, you must understand that these boundaries, these clear demarcations are very essential for everyday communication at organizations, and even at your home, even with your friends, because good fences make good neighbors. The clear markings, the clear boundaries, the borders which makes you feel anxious, nervous, should never be infringed by people, right? So that is why make sure that there is a warning sign, that unsaid warning sign or permission, because you don't want to shock anyone. Correct? Moving ahead, also at the extreme left hand side corner, you might see the orbiting and how people, are walking in their orbits. This is what we are going to talk about. So, first, let us understand what is space. So, theoretically, space has no finite barrier. It is arbitrary. It becomes tangible only when people or objects are situated or located in the space. So that's space. There's no boundary. Distance brings boundary. Distance is basically the measured boundaries, the calculated boundaries that we are talking about, that how far one individual is from another, how far that table is from me. If that table is just, next to me, I might just trip on it and clumsily fall on the floor. That is why there are two concepts also, minimalism and maximalism. If you go to a house, to your friend's house, to your, family member's house, and you walk through the door and you see that there are so many beautiful showpieces, items, plants, decor, everything. Yes, they spent a lot money on it, but that might make you feel exhausted, because that's a lot of information at one moment, in one moment. So that looks like, it is crowded. Mostly people, for their increased sense of patience and calmness, or a cooler attitude, they believe that they would go to a place, or they would feel comfortable in a place which is less crowded. And I'm not talking just about people, I'm also talking about the objects around you. So space and distance matters a lot when we are communicating, not just with people, but also with the objects around us. Correct? Moving forward now, I mean, this is something I just added to bring in some element of fun here. Now I just want to ask you that I mean, I'm sure that you have watched the movie Titanic several number of times. Do you agree? I mean, you could have your own views, definitely, but for fun's sake, could you just for a moment, like, 1 out of 99% of times, could you just think that, probably Rose could have made some room for Jack, and they could both have been alive. I know. I understand that, that was not the part of the story, and that's not how it could have happened. But for fun's sake, why would Rose not allow a little more space for Jack to, lie down on the same, the wooden rack? Because everyone has a room of their own, correct? So you don't want that infringement. Of course, that's not how the story is meant to be, and that's not what was in the case. But, you know, 1 out of 3 people might say that, if you look at it positively with some positivity, probably there could have been some space. So probably Rose did not want her space to be infringed by Jack. That was just for fun. But what do you think? There have been multiple jokes on it, correct? Moving further, now why do we think that this is important? Because it is something that no one else will do for you. This is something that you have to do it for your own self, because if you can see the cartoon picture just above the slide, you'd see that there are stars and everything. So that's your aura. If you have negative energies or any charged energy coming from different person, your aura can be distorted, disturbed, and even corrupted. So it is your duty, it is your responsibility to maintain, to signify, to recognize the boundary and make other people also recognize it for you. So you have to create your own boundary, specifically at workplaces. All right. Now, I would tell you that how this looks like. So, can you look at the pictures here? Now, we are talking about close talkers. That happens a number of times, and we cannot do anything about it. You're standing in a corridor, or you're standing on a metro platform, and somebody okay, as an acquaintance comes to you and talks to you very closely. What do you feel? Don't you feel uncomfortable, awkward, and hesitant as well? So this is what we have to avoid, because that's again infringement of the of your vibes, of your distance, of your of the bandwidth that you don't allow. I'll just show you a small clip, and probably you'll get a little idea of what I'm trying to say.
This is Aaron.
Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Aaron. So how long are you folks in town?
3 more days, and then we're off to Paris.
We're going with a select charter group. I love France. I was just there last year. In fact.
So I hope you've got my point here, that some people like to come close to you and talk to you, but it is your responsibility. Of course, that person might not be aware of this, culture that you have ingrained for yourself. So you have to make it clear for that person that, could you please take a step back, because I do not. I'm not able to talk to you properly. So it is according to what you like and what your energies are accepting or embracing, correct? Moving further, all right, just a second. Okay. Now, you remember COVID times, right? So we were following social distancing, right? So these are some more memes that I collected only to get you to understand. That's, this is not just for the times and requirement of a virus that makes you do this. This is something that you require even without the virus. Okay. You do not need to be associated, and you do not need people to be coming in your divine space unless and until you want them to be. Okay. So this is just for fun, and let us see how we can define our zones which transform energy, vibe, and aura. Okay, so I'm sure that you're able to look at the slide in front of you. We have first is the intimate distance, which is basically 6 to 18 inches, and even less than that sometimes, which is basically very a closer distance. This level of physical distance often indicates a closer relationship. For example, a mother and daughter, or even husband and wife, where you're hugging, whispering, or even touching. So that's intimate distance, and it's only designated to a little to a set of people only. Then we come to personal distance. Please have a look at the picture also. It is a bit far away than the intimate zone. And here you have some family members, some close friends who can comfortably stand next to you, and it could be indicator of the intimacy and closeness of in the relation, the love or warmth in the relationship. Correct? Then you come to social distance. Social distance is basically with acquaintances, even colleagues, and people you don't know very well. And if you allow these people to cross the social distance, it becomes necessarily anxious for you. It becomes difficult for you. Correct? So you are not very comfortable interacting or probably even whispering in their ears or hugging them. So you need that distance, okay? And you would talk a tone, higher. Your voice would be louder because that's, the kind of relationship you would have with those acquaintances, because you don't want closeness to talk. You will have a distance. Then, lastly, we come to public distance, which is again, quite far. And here we are talking about the situations wherein your teacher is teaching you, or there is a public meeting and or a presentation, etc. So this is basically public speaking situations, and here also people tend to go closer to the audience sometimes to get more impact, but that is also well strategized. All right, so these are the four zones that you have to take care of. But we are not saying that we have to stay only far away with people. We have to understand what is the zone which the person has decided for you, because communication is definitely important, right? And that, because human communication is the key to personal and professional success. Correct? So you need to communicate, you need to sometimes build rapport with people by small talks, or even getting closer to somebody. Correct? So but that you have to do in a very strategized manner. And how you can do so? You can do so not by social distancing only, but by socializing at a distance, keeping a warm distance with people, with anyone. It could be in the intimate zone or personal space, or even at the social stage also. You can wave to a person and can talk at a farther place also, but you have to be warm enough for that. So socializing at a distance is the new normal, where you respect the distance that you maintain with the person in front of you. So respect not only the differences but also the distances, and socialize. We are not asking you not to socialize. You can share a smile with the person and make a person's mood best for the day, and even so without coming closer to a person. It's not just about the closeness, but it's also about the warmthness. Now, how can you use these four zones in any social situations? Now, as you can see in the first picture, you can see, a team huddling up together. Now, that's a sports area. That's a different domain altogether. You need to infringe the what you call the distances, so that you can come closer and motivate each other. Correct? Or in the place where you are interrogated by somebody, or there is a scene in the movie where you see the interrogation takes place, that interrogator comes really very close to the one who's been interrogated, so that he can create anxiety, awkwardness, and this is adrenaline rush. Now imagine you're talking to your colleague and he or she comes really close to you. You might have this adrenaline rush and you might not feel comfortable. So, at organizational level, it's really important to be aware, mentally conscious of the distance that you have to follow. So as you can see, the fourth picture, that is a well decorated, a well disciplined huddle that you see. It's very much different from the sports huddle that you see in the first picture. So, of course, no matter how good you are at body language, if you aren't within the right distance, you can be, weakening your impact. And thus, it would look like, are you interrogating me? No? Then please take a step back, right? So, this is important. Now we come to something really interesting that intrigues a lot of people. There are no written rules anywhere. But now let me ask a question to all of you. What would be a response to a person who is now going to enter an elevator, and he or she is facing towards the back of the elevator and not the doors of the elevator? I would like to look at some answers here. Can you give some answers, everyone? Anyone? All right. Definitely. It looks disturbing, and you feel self conscious. You are mostly feeling disturbed at why this person is standing opposite to me. It makes you feel anxious, nervous, and also at the same time annoyed. So, elevator proximics are also something to be understood very cautiously, right? Moving ahead, so these are some seven handy tips that you can use in the elevator to be more confident. And we don't realize it, but every day in an elevator, you might feel that awkward, uncomfortable vibe. Okay, so how to go ahead with it? Make sure that you're facing always forward. Then fold your hands in front. Then do not make eye contact with people, because you might look serious. Okay, so that you have to avoid. Then watch the numbers. Look at which floor is now up. Then don't talk to anyone who you don't know. And now this can be strategized as well. You can just share a smile, you could probably wave your hand, you could wave a hi, etc. But conversation in elevators are useless, because once the floor comes, he or she will have to get down. So no, there is no use of going for a small talk. You could just smile, or you could just wave a hi. Then stop talking with anyone you do not know when anyone enters the elevator. So you're this neighbor and you're talking to her, but then suddenly someone else comes. So it's by etiquette, by the rule of etiquettes, you must stop or pause that particular interaction that you might be having. Okay, because that also makes somebody else feel awkward. Then, lastly, avoid brushing bodies. Of course, you cannot do so when there is a lot of rush, but when four or five people are already in, then make sure that you're not actually brushing to other people. Make sure you have your own space and distance at that time, also. Right? Another approach for basically organizational level, at an organizational level, is called the shake and wait approach. So, you are meeting this new person, new colleague for the very first time, and you're not sure that how you're going to, talk to him or her, or present yourself with the space around her or him. So, what you have to do is lean in a bit and then give an appropriate handshake. I'm sure that a firm handshake is what represents confidence and a cooler attitude. So you can do so, and then make a good eye contact. Lastly, take a step back and wait. That is the process of shake and wait approach. This is where you are done with the handshake, and waiting is when the information comes out. You get to know what the person is allowing you. So if they remain in the place, that means that they're very comfortable with the distance that you have maintained. If they take a step back or turn slightly away, then probably they need more space and want to be elsewhere. And if they want to come, and if they take a step closer, that means that they're feeling comfortable and they are favorable towards you. So next time, shake your hands and then wait. So, students, now we'll talk about what we have to practice every day to become masters in Proximix. You have to understand this one rule called neither too far nor too close. Next, be the architect of your social personal interactions and build a healthy space around you, because what you keep in the space around you influences you deeply. Lastly, what you allow once will continue for the longest time. So make sure who you allow in the vibe, in your personal vibe or your personal aura. Open your arms and allow the people who you only want to allow, because what you allow continues for the longest time. That's all for this session, students and audiences who have joined me. Thank you so much, and have a room of one's own. Thank you so much.